Good morning, members. We'd like to welcome you very warmly to this webinar that we're holding today. It is the 6th one we are holding since we started grappling with the challenges of COVID-19. And we're very happy to see that many of you have joined in. And today we have a very interesting topic that is born out of what we've been receiving as questions and also witnessing in what is happening in the world of work arising from the impact of COVID-19 on the way that work is done. So our theme or our topic for today is looking at business and COVID-19 and asking, is this the emerging new normal? We started holding webinars on the 1st of April. In the first one, we were dealing really with unemployment-related challenges arising out of the pandemic and the fact that employers had to quickly adjust their operations and send people home in compliance with what the government had directed. And they were asking questions, so what are our obligations as employers? What do we have to do to facilitate this work from home? And the Federation was very quick in preparing protocols and guidelines on approaches that employers could adopt. And we are very pleased to be receiving feedback from you on that and how you're faring. The second webinar was looking at the strategies and approaches that employers can adopt in managing contracts, the employer-employee relationship. What were the issues? If you send people at home, if you send them home on leave, what are your obligations? And that has culminated again in an advisory that we prepared as Fke to help guide you members. In the third webinar, which we held on the 15th of April, we were looking now at labor relations and seeing the impact of COVID-19 on collective bargaining agreements and the terms and conditions of employment of employees who are covered by CBAs. Unions who were wondering whether there were going to be job losses, and employees were also asking the same question. So this provided a very useful forum for exchange of views. And at that time, we were already talking with unions at bipartite level, at enterprise level, to see what could be done to salvage jobs. And the key running theme throughout this crisis, coming from the Federation and employers, has been we want to do as much as possible to protect jobs. The fourth webinar looked at the Pandemic Response and Management Bill, which was proposed by Senate. It has far-reaching implications on employment. And this bill was published and we were invited to give views. We did ask members to give their inputs to the bill, and we are grateful to those of you who responded. We also prepared a memorandum which we presented to the Senate committee chaired by Honorable Sakaja, and they were very responsive to the concerns and the issues that we raised. This bill is available on our website. We can give you the opinion that we prepared. In essence, it was proposing really to impose upon employers the duty to maintain employees in employment, regardless of the performance of that enterprise. It was encroaching into the financial sector and the loans that are currently running and saying interest could not be charged, and also into the tenancy agreements and basically saying landlords could not evict employees, could not evict tenants who are unable to pay their rent. Of course, we don't think people should be evicted at this point. There should be tolerance, but that's a decision that should be left between the owner of the premises and the tenant, and this we have encouraged. So that was a useful forum for getting your views and giving feedback to government and to Senate and Parliament, which also adopted some of these proposals. As we know, that bill is still pending. In the last webinar, we were looking at workplace safety and health and well-being. Really, this was ahead of World Health and Safety Day, which was observed here in our country the following day on the 28th of April. We had the Deputy Director of the Directorate that deals with health and safety. It was a very interactive session where many of you participated. So this has led us to the webinar that we have today. And the topic that we are discussing is really a global one. There's all over the papers today concern about the impact of COVID-19 on jobs. we've been asked about job losses from the beginning by the media, and we've been saying that that's the last resort employers will take. But of course, it is a very real threat, and there are jobs that will be lost. And globally, the figures are quite scary. And of course, these figures continue to grow. But I must add a rider here that really the end result will depend on how long drawn out COVID-19 is in each country. But globally, we're looking at 305 million full-time jobs at risk. We're looking at 101.6 billion workers in the informal sector losing their livelihoods. These are global numbers. But in Kenya and Africa, we know that the informal economy is huge. That is where the bulk of the jobs are coming from. In fact, arising from the report that was published a few weeks ago, the indications are that for Kenya, up to 90% of the jobs that were created in the year 2019 came from the informal economy. So when the president gave a figure of 500,000 possible job losses, we thought that was quite realistic, and actually they could be conservative estimates, because right now we know there are quite a lot of sectors that are not functioning, that are totally closed. The hotel industry, the hospitality, tourism, transport. So we're not really sure that all these people will be able to come back to work when things pick up. So that 500, 500,000 figure is fairly conservative. The key question that arises is, what then does a business do to cope? There are emerging trends and practices that employers have adopted and continue to adopt. Many people are working from home. This is an idea that we've all had to grapple with. In fact, there are indications that for Africa, this crisis could be a blessing in disguise because it has forced us to digitize and to change the patterns of work and think about people working remotely. So remote work, virtual learning are now real issues which are here with us. People are doing a lot digitally and also telecommuting. Innovation is then the key word for enterprises to survive and to grow. Surveys are being done by a number of entities. We have indications from a global human resource consultancy called SHRM, and also a survey that we have done ourselves in conjunction with the ILO. And the report, the picture coming out is that employers, businesses are struggling also with this idea of remote work. Even the developed economies that we thought had already adopted the idea of working from home are struggling. Actually, indications of that, only 18% of enterprises globally were using the working from home, remote working idea. And as we speak, 71% of employers, this is largely US based, but this SHRM entity has branches in over 100 countries, so fairly reliable. So the bulk of employers are struggling with adjusting, helping employees cope with working from home, challenges of keeping employees motivated, and also measuring performance in this new scenario. Employers are facing challenges of culture, and also some have actually shut down and are wondering what will happen in the future. This pattern is replicated in the survey that FKE did. And of course, for us here in Kenya, the key question is, what does the law require and how do we deal with the legal gaps, such as unpaid leave? Is this a situation where you can resort to redundancy? We didn't think so. Unpaid leave is not mentioned in our laws, but we advised from the beginning that that was an option open to employers, and we're very happy that actually the unions also eventually agreed to that. There are options of looking at wages and freezing those wages, reviewing collective bargaining agreements. So legislation was a key concern, and what could or could not be done. The indications that a lot of businesses are also struggling with cash to maintain their operations. A lot of them had to invest in facilitating people working from home. Some have recorded frustrations with contracts. Their orders have been cancelled. There's no more demand for those products, so what do they do? And on the whole, a fairly fluid situation. And these figures are rising from a survey we did about 2 weeks ago. So obviously the pattern will change. depending on how long drawn out COVID-19 is. But the story here is that what is happening in Kenya is pretty much the same experience as what is happening globally. So today we are talking about the new normal. But before I open up to the panel, really what we have to ask, was there ever a normal? And if there was, what was it? And do we want to go back to it? Are our businesses ready for whatever the new normal we define will be? And what are opportunities that are arising from this pandemic? Because there are also opportunities arising from the crisis, and we'll be talking about that. Are you ready as a business with mitigation measures to help you face the challenges? And then we're trying to project, and we'll be asking our panel to do some crystal ball gazing and tell us what will the future look like in their view and from their experience. Today we have a very eminent panel of gentlemen to help us discuss this topic. So now what I want to do is to introduce them, and I'm very happy that they were able to join us. Our first panelist is Nicholas Kasidi, who is the head of talent engagement at EABL, East African Breweries Limited. He's an accomplished talent leader with a lot of exposure across Africa and in the Middle East. He's been championing HR programs and HR engagement. He has partnered with a number of organizations in many countries, focusing really on people issues, and is experienced in working with teams. He's also supported placement and executive search for talent in very difficult environments in countries in Africa and beyond, and also in emerging markets. His passion is about shaping and inspiring talent, helping people to excel and to unlock their potential. In terms of qualifications, Nicholas holds a first-class honors degree in philosophy and certification in leadership, coaching, and management, among others. Welcome, Nicholas. Our second panelist is John Mwendwa, who is the HR Director at Coca-Cola Beverages Africa, Kenya. He's in charge of HR at Nairobi Bottlers, Equator Bottlers, and Crown Beverages. I was laughing and saying, John is giving his life to bottling and beverages, but he'll clarify that because actually he has experience beyond that. Very vast experience. He's a generalist in HR practice. He's a leader. He has helped people develop their talent as well. He has extensive experience across a number of industries. He's worked in the aviation industry, in the banking industry, telecom, and fast-moving consumer goods sectors. And our paths have met with John in that journey. Previously, he's worked at Unilever, and he was the leadership and development manager responsible for a broad region beyond Kenya. In terms of qualifications, John has an MBA, an MBA in strategic management from USIU, and he's also certified in management development. So a very warm welcome to you, John. We're looking forward to hearing from you. Our third panelist is someone who's been with us for a long time, very seasoned professional. He's the Director HR and Administration at Isuzu East Africa Limited, Fred Wasike. And Fred plays mainly a role in providing leadership, HR leadership, and support now to the entire Isuzu network in the region, the ESE region, covering 8 dealer operations. Fred, who we have known for a long time here at FKE, is a seasoned professional, all-rounded man who has given his life, I think, to people management. He's also company secretary, and he's worked in that capacity as an HR professional in both the public and private sector for over 20 years. He is a fellow of the Institute of Certified Secretaries of Kenya, a member of the Institute of HR, IHRM, and KIM, and also the Institute of Directors. Currently, Fred is studying for a PhD at the University of Nairobi, and we wish you well, Fred. We need you to qualify and add talent Finally, I'd want to introduce Grace Kaume, who will be facilitating today. Grace is the HR manager here at the Federation. I want to thank you, gentlemen, for taking time to be with us today, and we really look forward to engaging you. Thank you. So over to you, Grace.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Mugo, for that introduction. Members, I believe you're ready for the discussions. So today we are not doing formal presentations. Instead, we are having a very deliberate panel discussion with the panelists that have just been introduced to us. So at this point, I will invite them to get ready, because we want to hear from them. We will engage up until 11:30. So kindly mark your diaries. So at this point, we'd like to start off the conversation. We have the three panelists, and I'd like to invite Nicholas, then Mwendwa, then Fred, to just tell us, to introduce themselves, just so that you see their faces and you connect to the introduction that has been given. But for each of them to take just about 5 minutes to tell us how COVID-19 has impacted their businesses so far, whether they were prepared for it, and the immediate things they did when COVID was reported in Kenya. Nicholas?
Right. Thank you, Grace. Thank you, Madam Jacqueline. Pleasure to be in this forum. As you see, so from the introduction, I did not have such a large profile. Yeah, that's great. So clearly, in terms of the crisis that we are dealing with now, it's obvious to say no one was ever prepared for it. Like they say, you can never be prepared for a crisis. And what we are seeing now is that businesses are really adjusting really fast, and ours is not being left out. We've done a couple of things in the last 2 months that we are looking at and even dialing up in the next few weeks. One of the things that we are really focusing on is really top priority, is the safety and health of our employees. That has been a top priority for us because our people come first, and we have placed them at the core of everything that we do. And then currently also, we are trying to stay very close to our customers and our consumers, really trying to understand how this is affecting them. Yeah, so how this is affecting them and how this is going to really change the landscape of us going forward beyond this crisis. So really doing a lot of work around understanding our distributors, working with them to reshape their operations, how we get our products to trade, really growing our off-trade side of the business, which is really, a cash and carry, and really, working with them to really help them, shape that part of the business. We have a very active business continuity team that we've put together with the leadership team. And this team is constantly, scanning the environment for new challenges and really advising the business on where to focus on, from time to time. As we know, this virus is very fluid, and we really cannot, have very many, shape very long-term plans. We've been significantly impacted basically on our own trade business, which is mainly on the bars and the outlets, that forms like 80% of our business on the on trade side. So what does that mean? That the mainstream of our business has to really shift focus, to really where people need to get the products. And as a business, we have to think very fast to make sure that's working, and that we are really trending in the direction we are going to trend to. Our business focus has really had to change and really reshape how we get our products onto trade, but deliberately getting our sales team on overdrive and everyone pulling together to really focus on the right priorities at the moment. Yeah, so a couple of things going on, scanning the environment, ensuring that we have our products and we are getting our business out there, shaping the right conversation, right sessions with the different teams, ensuring health and safety remains a top priority.
Thank you, Nicholas. So are these things that you were doing previously, or they are strategies that you developed actually when COVID came?
So we had started on a couple of things, especially around our business on trade. Now, when COVID came, what we have done is make sure that we sort of optimize on the opportunities that we have. So the big opportunity here is, sizing up the off-trade business, which is really looking at our convenience stores, the wines and spirits. So currently we have recruited over 400 neighborhood wines and spirits outlets, that we are working very closely. We have a couple of programs that we are running with the channel partners and making sure that they build their capability and they know what to do. We have really also dialed up on the e-commerce platform, and this is really where we try and make sure that we have a stronger presence. So a couple of them, most of you probably know the Yam Turn Up, where you just get in wherever you are, order your product, it will be delivered to you. And we've mapped all these specifically to the neighborhood distributors. So you do an order and then 30 minutes you get it to your doorstep. So we are pulling all our resources to make sure that we go a notch higher in this time than before. And the opportunity is immense because we are looking to really grow that sector, which probably we didn't focus on so much, especially when the on-trade was active.
Great, thank you very much. So we move on to John, and more or less the same question. We'd like to know how COVID has impacted your business, whether you are prepared, and what you did when this happened.
Thanks, Grace, and thanks, Jackie, for very warm introduction and welcome. I think the first thing I need to say is nobody prepared for COVID. And therefore, the impact that came out of COVID was, first of all, a shocker, but a very gradual shocker. So I see COVID as having impacted our business in many ways, and many good ways and bad ways, and we're riding the wave on the good change. So the first impact is it has helped us redefine the things that we need to do as a bottler every day. That's a first step that I think we got into rethinking. What is that thing that we need to do as a bottler every single day as a business? So we've got into thinking and getting in touch with consumers to understand how they want their products now in the crisis and where they want their products, because tradition has shifted. What we call tradition, what we call norm and normal, and which I have troubles with, has shifted. So getting into the skin of the customer to understand where and what products of ours they want and how they want them has been one impact. But there's been greater impacts that I want to talk about that are general, the usual impact on consumption trends. So when you close eateries and we close the economy, the night economy, you then have an impact on your top line, which is the volume that goes into restaurants, that goes into bars. So that has been an impact. There's I don't want to call it low consumption, but different consumption, because like Nick has said, people will still continue to consume. It is figuring where they are consuming that leads your business into new thoughts. So there's been a change in how we operate. There's a much talked about work from home, but work from home is not just transferring people to the house, but it's also transferring accountabilities for people who are working at home. So there's been that shift, making it acceptable that people can work from home and don't feel like they are doing home work, they're still doing office work. There's been a need to do shift configurations because we need to operate and there's a curfew. So how do we operate in that new normal? Our focus has been extremely clear that the health and safety of our employees must override any other decision that we're making now. So if there's a decision we're going to make as a business, if there's an operation that's going to put our staff at risk, then we'd rather not have it. But that seems to be the impact that sort of drives fear in people's hearts and people's minds. We've seen very good impact in that sudden emergence of COVID. And the one thing that I'll talk about is there's been just a sudden acceleration of use of technology. That the things that people have shied away from, when we talk about training, people want to have modules, people want to have PowerPoint presentations, people want to have a room, people want to have catering and stuff. But that acceleration of use of technology has come out as a great advantage. We're running lots of trainings. We haven't stopped life, so to speak, but we've moved technology. So I see a lot of that acceleration. I see a lot of good adoption of work from home. Initially, people wanted to have rules. How do we engage if you work from home? But now there's no time for engagement. You're just going to have work from home. So that is coming in as a good thing. People have spoken about agility and wanting to study agility and wondered what agility is. But the rise in agility in the response of COVID, for me, has been a very good impact, a positive side of the impact. There's, I would say, an emergence of very innovative way in how we're going to deal with the consumers, whether it's in the e-commerce that we've talked about, so we've got Dial-A-Coke. But the last thing I'll talk about in terms of this effect, which is something that's worth noting, is the emergence of a new leader. So that emergence of a new leader who's driving the business from people's hearts, not from a business top line and bottom line, is what we're seeing. We're seeing it in the top leadership. We're seeing it in the middle leadership of people who are making the strategic decisions that are made for COVID operational. So those are good impacts that I'm seeing in the COVID. So there's a bad side that sort of drives fear and hopelessness, and that fits in the 70% of the employers who are coping. But there's a lot of good that's coming out of it.
Thank you very much, John. We'll come back to some of those pointers that you've given us and really explore them deeper as we continue this conversation. At this point, I'd like to invite on Fke. Fke is in the business of selling vehicles. At this point, we are wondering, are people actually buying vehicles? Is it a necessity at such a time? And so really, Fke, how has this COVID impacted your business? And really, what did you do?
Thanks, Grace, and good morning, FKE members. I work in the motor industry. The industry size annually is 100,000 units. Out of that number, only about 11% is taken up by 20 franchise holders for new vehicles. Our projection for this year was to sell 11,200 units, new vehicles shared by the 20 new franchise holders. But COVID has pushed this projection down to just about 9,000 units, a reduction of about 20% on sales. Our business is being on the road. Whenever we see traffic on the road, we know we are in business. So the lockdowns have affected our after-sales operations. The vehicles are not gaining mileage, and our business is going down as a result. A number of our major business segments like schools and education institutions are closed, so business is low in that direction. So overall, the reduction in business and vehicle sales and after sales is in the range of 20%. Our production operations have also gone down by 6%. Pre-COVID, we were doing 300 units per month in production. Our outlook for this year is to do 200 units per month. That's about that 6% reduction in our business. Our supply chain has also been affected. Most of the kits we use in our production lines come from outside, mostly South Africa. We know that there's been lockdown in South Africa, and whenever there's that extension, it affects us here. So production has also gone down significantly because of that interruption in our supply chain. People costs. One of the things that we do, just like other employers, is providing staff transport. The social distancing rules, we had to increase the number of buses from 7 to 10, because we had to apply the same rules in our buses. So we have a very large fleet of vehicles that we are currently running to bring our employees to work and take them home daily. So this has had an overall impact in terms of increase in employment costs. Collection is quite tough. As you mentioned, our products are high value. So most of our customers are asking for retiming of repayments, and banks are also going slow on giving loans to our customers. Asset financing is what drives our business, and a number of customers moved quickly to take advantage of guidelines from central bank to retime their loan repayments. What this has done is to slow down the circulation of asset financing within our customer base. Our export business in the other East African countries, Uganda and Tanzania, has also been affected. We've lately been seeing controls around truck drivers because of COVID, the tests at the border. So what we've been doing is sometimes getting our vehicles to the border, and then we get customers coming in from Tanzania and Uganda to pick the vehicles from the border, then drive them to their places. So that has really affected us. Now, what we are doing about all these challenges, we have taken the view that as an organization, the welfare and safety of our employees come first. Our corporate target now really is to have a zero positive. We are okay with zero sales and zero revenue, but our overriding target is a zero COVID positive case. Now, to align ourselves to that objective, we have, and also considering the slowdown in business, we have adopted a 4-day working week. We run business from Monday to Thursday. Our frontline departments continue running vehicle sales and after sales, but the back office and our production line is now operating on a 4-day week. Then Fridays employees take leave. We are compliant with the Ministry of Health guidelines on social distancing, just to ensure that our employees are safe. For those members of our teams who have chronic cases, who would otherwise go to hospital for medication, to make a decision to buy drugs for last them for 6 months so that they don't go to pharmacies and hospitals, which we believe would expose them to COVID. There are some areas where we have made a decision not to touch. One of them is CSR. We believe this is the time to positively impact the community. We are doing a lot in our neighborhood, Buru, in Agareno, targeting 10,000 livelihoods. And also, we have also made a decision as an organization not to touch the salaries and the benefits of our employees. So that's not part of our plan. We can only touch employees when we are touching the bone, and so far we are not there yet. So those are some of the things we are doing first to cope with it. Thank you.
Thank you, Fred, for that in-depth discussion. So we are taking another round, and at this point, I want us then to start looking at the lessons that you have learned. COVID came, we had to take action. But there are definitely many lessons you have picked from this. There are opportunities, some of them that you've already talked to, and certainly there could be some threats. So starting with John this time, I'd like to know, and you pointed to some of these things, but are there big lessons that you have learned from this beyond what you spoke into? And do you see bigger opportunities arising from these, or is it a wave that is just passing?
So there's lots of things that that we've learned, and I think it boils down to leadership, because the survival through any crisis isn't the muscle you have in terms of products. It is the leadership that you provide in the crisis. So if you think about it today, we're not in a crisis. We're just on the edge of chaos, where everything is sort of imploding. The economy, the larger economy is imploding. The health system is challenged. The people's beliefs are challenged. So the real lesson that we are coming out with from this, and we're coming out, is to strengthen leadership that can inspire people through crisis. Now, I don't think it's something that will pass. My own view, it's just a new disease on the list to negotiate with insurers. The threats that I see, and I think, Grace, I don't know if they want us to talk about the threats and opportunities together.
Yes.
Is the threats that I see from a business point of view is creeping back of the old mindset that was a normal. And I honestly don't think those are normal. The old changed very gradually, and we could almost foresee that there's going to be this technology evolution, the entry of millennials. So the change was almost predicted. What happened with this one is it was a sudden creation of a norm. So the creeping of the old mindset may make most organizations go under, because they would want to deal the old way when there's no old way. From a HR point of view, and that impacts business, I see a threat on the cost structures and the kind of conversations that we have with partners. So if you think about what we call medical cover today, it's going to be totally challenged. If you think about things that we bring in, like WIBA and group life and stuff, these are going to be challenged because they exist on an evaluated laboratory called workplace. But now you're going to have 40% or about working from their homes, and those places are not evaluated. Like, do you break your leg going down the stairs? Was that evaluated when you're taking WIBA and stuff like that? So that's, I see as a threat. The other threat is if HR people don't lead responsiveness to the new or to the emerging needs of the future employee. So it's very easy today to have a cover of medical that takes people to Nairobi Hospital, but those diseases are going to go. In fact, if you go and analyze your covers today, most people are not going to hospital. So there's going to be a new saving on the medical cover as we took it in January. However, I sense that mental wellness is under threat, serious threat. I sense that resilience of individuals is under threat. That's why you see people do awkward stuff. People are, spending the whole day with regular people. So team dynamics, how do we bring in this team bonding? How do we bring togetherness of teams when you ask people to work outside? So there's a threat to that if we do not react the right way as HR leaders. From an opportunity point of view, I see the greatest opportunity in bringing agility. So we will need to stop thinking about what our strategy is and start to listen to what the consumers want more, because they will not go back necessarily to the places where they used to consume. They may not even now want to consume what they wanted to consume before. So this changing consumer needs, how shall we react to them with agility. And is it the e-commerce that we talked about, about dialogue and stuff, but it's also listening to what they want now. Is it more health? Is it more bigger size? Is it a smaller size? Working will move away from the office as an opportunity. So we need to rethink our offices. Do we need a full floor, or do we need to take on serviced offices and take 20 desks and say, you know what, if you want to work, go to that building. So we need to rethink our real estate and rethink it quick. Otherwise, we'll pay for rent for space that's not used. Adoption of technology is going to get deeper. So in fact, if you look at what's happening in the education system, where people are learning through Zoom, and we think it's happening only in the cities. In the village, there's a sort of a late adoption of WhatsApp. People are getting messages on WhatsApp and sending to their people in the village where we struggle with data. So there's going to be a faster adoption of technology. Negotiation is going to be different for CBA if you think about it. The base has been shaken. So the kind of negotiation where we have more, and this is our territory, we protect it, that's going to change. And people are going to think about businesses as theirs to build and not someone else's to take from. So I see the mindset that CBA negotiation coming out. I see an opportunity for pay structures to change, because people are going to go into consultancy mode. So people are now enjoying working from home, So how do people come and say, I want to work for 4 days? I think Wasika is going to say they're working on a 4-day. So people say, I'm happy working for 4 days and taking care of my family for the other 3 days. So how is that going to affect pay? So there's real opportunities. But for us, in those opportunities is to redefine the workplace and the employee of the future, because the past is gone.
Lovely. Thank you very much. So I'll go to Nicholas, and I will tie his questions to something that you just talked about. You said one of the key lessons is about strengthening leadership. So Nicholas, I'd like you to address that, and also to look at it from the perspective of talent. You are an expert in talent management. What skills and competencies do you think we'll need moving into the future? How should we get these talents? How do we motivate? How do we ensure that people are retained? Retention actually is an issue into the future. So speak about talent management and leadership development into the future, including this period. Thank you.
Great, thanks. So you'll realize that this future of work that sort of we've been talking about for a couple of years now is already here. The fact is that COVID has made it come much faster than anticipated. So we really have to figure out how to readjust our plans, our talent priorities, and how this is going to affect our employees going forward for them to thrive rather than just surviving a crisis. So I think the biggest thing, like John mentioned, is really about mindset. Skills can be trained, but if you can get our people to adopt, first of all, a resilient mindset, agility where they respond faster to situations quickly without waiting for the competition, and also, as employers, I see as repurposing a number of jobs. And as you see with the working from home, you realize we've tried and tested a couple of scenarios where a job that was previously done by 5 people is currently handled by about 2 or 3 people. Yeah, and so it's more how are you going to rotate and get the best out of the people you already have while retaining them. Challenges, of course, will still arise in terms of engagement. So really thinking differently around engaging a remote worker and how do you do that? Some of the things we have been trying to do is really staying close to our teams. We've been training our managers and leaders on how to manage during a crisis and what to look out for, how to manage performance, and keep productivity in check. a couple of tools that we and resources that we have put in place already to just help, the different teams, manage the working away from the office. But then at the end of the day, it's all about people. You have to put your people at the core. And so how do you make sure that these people are still engaged and motivated, from wherever they are? The other thing is it's really around having a shared partnership at the leadership level. People really want to see now more than ever that their leaders and the business cares. And firstly, really cares about their well-being and is putting everything possible to make sure that they are well taken care of. Secondly is because of this partnership, you are looking at shared responsibilities and accountabilities. How are you holding your people accountable for results? Now, remember, during COVID, you may not be paying those increases you've been doing every year. You may not be having those bonuses, they may not be forthcoming, but you still need your people to perform and really perform optimally. So it's more of how do I get into the minds and hearts of my people to really see that this is an opportunity for me to thrive and not run away. From a business perspective, we are really trying to build our digital footprint, to a larger extent, coming from the traditional channels that are hugely going to be disrupted. And so we are looking at, more virtual engagements with our teams, with our customers. The way your salespeople are used to doing calls at the distributor side may change, quite a bit. So getting used to just, hosting all these sessions virtually and only making very critical to business type of visits. We are also trying to get people to adopt a much more startup mindset. Now, a startup mindset is where you can always predict that something might go wrong and you're always on top of your game. So with a startup mindset, you're not just sitting pretty and easy, hoping that, the business will take care of itself. So we are trying to get to that position where we can quickly renegotiate terms, which we had done before. We can quickly, reallocate resources where it really matters at this point. When you think of how we go to market, what are we doing proactively with our distributors, to get their teams also, having the right skills of selling, because at the end of the day, we are a business, about, moving products to the market. So if we are selling, we just have to make sure that everyone is selling. The other thing is really being open to change. It's not about change management. It's really being open to change and having a growth mindset rather than a fixed mindset. So we have been very fortunate to have a very good resource platform. We call it My Learning Hub. Now, My Learning Hub is a one-stop shop that has all your functional capabilities, leadership capabilities, and all your learning resources where you can find it at your fingertips. So it's always learning on the go. So we're trying to help people develop sort of a learning mindset and always be curious, to see the next new thing, especially as we move to the next normal way of doing things. So things like, well-being, resilience, building virtual teams, managing performance in a scenario like this, managing uncertainties, keeping your teams connected to the bigger picture, even when they are away from you, and really, focusing on the goal, while also focusing on the total person. Yeah. And you're going to see a lot of, like what John mentioned, a lot of changes in the way we manage contracts with employees. So more freelancers coming, more project-based type of assignments, and you have to think of how are you going to change your going forward. How you're going to build capabilities with people you can't really manage directly, but they have to give you the output you're looking for. So it's going to be a different ballgame altogether, but I think it's all fun as you look at it. So it's more of changing mindset, changing culture, redefining the new skill set you're looking at, since now we are with the situation the way it is. And I think the ones who are faster businesses that adopt faster to the changing game probably will thrive much better than the ones who take a wait and see kind of approach.
Wow, lovely. Thank you very much, Nicholas, for that. So I go back to Wasike. And Wasike, the business you're in, just thinking about it, is not a business that can easily be carried home. Considering, I mean, in comparison to the other panelists that we have, I don't know what practical really changes you had to make to your model, and what your advice would be to people who are in businesses almost similar to yours, which require a lot of on-job presence. Are there things that you'd advise corporates in such a field to consider, maybe innovative ways of getting their things done without necessarily getting so much into, losses?
Yeah, thanks, Grace. One of the lessons that I have picked, which is of use to employers in terms of flexibility of deployment of workforce, is the concept of local content. On the people side, local content would mean relying on local talent. When COVID struck, most global organizations employing experts here went through a crisis because most experts went back home. And companies were left in the hands of locals who are not prepared to steer them through COVID. So what I see companies doing to survive, for those that have regional outlets, is embracing the concept of local content, so that whenever there are lockdowns in some areas, companies don't get stuck. The other lesson I've learned is the value of diversity and inclusivity. We know COVID hits very hard the aged, and statistics show that the male workers are more hit than female workers. One of my friends called me when COVID struck, and he was asking for advice. What do I do? Most of the leadership team members had taken off because they are within the high-risk age category beyond 58. And the guy was alone in the office, just starting, how do we make decisions? So the value of diversity steer organizations through this crisis. And of course, concepts around working from home. I know it's something worse, but with proper guidelines and structures. I know companies will steer the organizations through COVID. Then use of digital platforms to engage with customers and employees, customers and employees, to be able to reach them at the point of need. For example, for us, of course, we have workshops. We would expect customers to bring their vehicles to service workshops for fixing. But what we are doing is reaching out there, sending out our technical staff to fix vehicles within their premises. That helps companies that are structured the way
much. Thanks, Fred, for that. So we are almost getting to the end of the discussion, but at this time I'd like to request the members who are present to start raising their hands or to type in their questions, which we will address after the last two questions that I'm sending the way to our panelists at this point. So get ready. So John, you mentioned it, but we'd like to get it in a detailed manner in terms of the business models that we are likely to see moving forward. Do you see lasting changes in our modeling processes, in how we shape our businesses? For that person who is intending probably to start up a business, are there key things that they should think about when they're doing their business model for it to survive into the future? What do you see in terms of business models moving forward?
I think I'll start with the fact that COVID is going to be here for as far as I can see. It could stop being a threat, but it's going to be discussed. It's going to be feared. It's going to be experienced in the future that I see. The business model that I see rotate around leadership. I see people will adopt a startup mentality more. So they will not think traditional route to market. They will not think traditional what we are offering the customer, but they'll largely think about what the customer wants, largely. And I'm sure it's already happening today, but we see that really drawing into being a focus. The businesses will move from the office to the home. So there's going to be lots of conversations about how do we interview? Like if you think about it today, there are people still interviewing and hiring. That's easy to do on Teams, on Zoom, but how do you onboard someone whom you've hired virtually? How do you onboard that person virtually, and how do they work in a distance? So, like distant from their team, their core teams. So I see business models changing from how we drive the top line. I see functions models changing to how we engage. But there's going to be a large set of skill that we lose due to COVID. Trust will become an item that we trade in the office, because if people are going to work at home, trust must be top of the list on how we operate. So I see therefore business model that's around nimble leadership, startup mentality, reskilling and bringing in future employee to work. But also say that what we're calling a crisis today is presenting an emergence of new business and new leaders. So there's going to be things around the way we can't even foresee, even as we project what that business model is. But what are the things that have moved and will not come back is consumer behavior, workplace behavior, and employee need. So those are changes that we will have to respond as we reshape the next model, business model.
Thank you very much. Nicholas, are you seeing opportunities for reskilling of human capital? Or are we just about to start our whole new skills development program? Are there people, and especially in your business, are there people you've found who are not necessarily up to scale in terms of what they're expected to do at this time, and especially now that people have to work away from their offices?
Yeah, no, I mean, the opportunity. Someone says, never waste a crisis. So opportunities are there for everyone to see. We have, a very resilient team, like I mentioned before, pulling together efforts during this time, making faster decisions, and really getting it right the first time. I was reading somewhere in a McKinsey report. There's this US retailer who recently, had planned to launch a product to the market about 18 months ago, And they had layered this plan over 18 months. Now, when COVID checked in, it went live in 2 days, like in a record 2 days. So what does it tell us as businesses? There are those plans that we have been, pushing to the back end and still dilly-dallying on, whether they're the right ones or not. I think now it's calling on all of us to really make sure that we have teams that can get things running quickly, faster, and able to take, calculated risks that pay off at the beginning. Get rid of bureaucracy, because I see, a couple of people who might be left out with this wave are people who, take too much time, to move over things that definitely they could say yes or no. So definitely reskilling is going to be a big thing. And it's not just reskilling, it's more of, it's more of adopting a new way of working, which basically, if you don't adopt it, then it leaves you behind. So like, for instance, like I mentioned, we have drastically changed how we go to market, and really working in partnership with all our teams. We have an asset we are leveraging called the Diageo Bar Academy, and we are pulling together our customers and helping them build capability, helping them sell faster, try new channels that they've not tried before. So it's more about, let's try this. If it fails, we learn from the process. How we sell is really changing, because at this point, everyone is trying to win in e-commerce. Whatever you want, whether it's the mama burger, the groceries, and trust me, we are all competing for the same share of wallet. So if I'm used to taking my, my 2 drinks at the end of the day every day, now with the shrinkage of share of wallet, you sort of need to reorganize your priorities. So how do we get people who can still, build a compelling case, at the consumer level, having us with the expectations, and still, make a profitable, out of it, a profitable business out of it. So it's more of, downscaling, but really to go higher. So downscaling to go higher with the right teams, and also the second thing is also reallocating the ones you already have. So I think we may need to go back and do a bit of a skills audit with our teams, the teams that we have. Are they well placed or positioned for this next normal, or we are going to go back to the default where we have been coming from? So, businesses have to really think hard, understand the landscape of your people, your talent, know their strengths, know their areas of opportunities, and then capitalize on those strengths. Look for opportunities for, upskilling, where possible. There are a couple of resources, and you will realize now with COVID, every day is a day of learning. There's information overload, but I think you have to be careful also on what you choose to learn from, filter what is good for you and what's probably not adding much value, because we are going into a value-adding era, which, that's how, outcomes will be measured, the value you bring on board. And so reskilling, yes, for sure, we have to do that, and really change the dichotomy of our businesses. Like John mentioned, the models, how we trade, what we do. If you're in the service industry, your customer service, way of working, how is that working, with the current situation we have now? If you are in the transport industry like Wasike, how are you selling cars to people who are already struggling, even with the basics? So definitely, I think there is an opportunity there, and reskilling is definitely the way to go.
Thank you very much. So I hand over now to my colleague Moses, who will take the questions from the floor. Karibu, Moses.
Thank you. I would like to bring in Nick, who has just left the floor, for the reason that there is a question from Alice Majani, who is asking how EABL is promoting responsible drinking with people working from home, and how you then measure productivity and the impact of irresponsible or responsible drinking may have while they are working away from home. This is from Alice Majani. Nick?
Yeah. Thank you, Alice. So we are a very responsible business. I mean, we've had a number of campaigns around responsible drinking. Now that is not changing, even with the situation we are seeing now. Even with the remote teams who are working from home, we are still encouraging, responsible drinking within our communities, within our societies. Every Friday, we have a virtual cocktail session that we do both for our staff and, just to get them think differently how to make certain drinks, cocktails, and just have fun while at it, But as we do that, the overriding factor is responsible drinking. We have been involved working very closely with the county governments as well. You saw the recent drive we had with the hand sanitizers that we were distributing. As we do that, the overriding factor is always responsible drinking as we engage, because these are our partners. And we are doing this all across our value chain, right from our suppliers, our transport partners, our distributors, to all our employees. So responsible drinking is not for negotiation. And our people know that this is something that we are still monitoring very, very closely with close check-ins every week, every day with the different team leaders and their people.
Thank you, Nick. I would like to move and now pose this question to Mr. Fred Wasike, my brother. This comes from Gilda Odera, who is asking, have you been able to measure performance of staff while working from home? And has it been impressive?
We have 6 employees working from home. The uptake on this option has relatively been low for various reasons. We always reach out to those employees for feedback. There are areas where this worked really well, because we have digital platforms in which we are engaging them. We have regular Zoom meetings, like for example, every Tuesday we have business review meetings with our dealer principals. A number of them work from home. Some of our staff work from home, and that has worked really well. Social distancing and ensuring that we remain focused on our business. And the way we measure results, of course, is from every meeting we have, we take action items, which then we report on at the subsequent meeting. So that has worked really well. In communications department specifically, a number of our staff work from home because they say when they're at home, they're able to sit down and draft communications in a good, quiet working environment and deliver write-ups on time. So that has really worked very well in terms of producing articles in a timely manner that drives our business. So those are the 2 areas where it is worked really well.
Thank you, Fred. The last question would go to John from Cork. And John, the question is about how you see the uptake of technology. And this is coming from Susan Omamo of Liquid Telecom. And what she's asking is about the use of laptops and other tools you are providing. And she's asking, have you provided other tools to improve efficiency during this time that people have to work through virtual technology? Over to you, John.
when I look at technology, I see it from two angles, and I think that's where I'll start. There's a technology that is within the four walls. How are people using technology in the office? And we've already agreed that there's a chunk of people who are working from home. So technology that I wouldn't even want to talk about it from a technology point of view. It's a norm. Where I see adoption is in doing those things that used to happen different before. So when you think about town halls in the workplaces, it's bringing people to a place and the MD is addressing them and there are questions, people raising hands and, maybe there's tea being served and stuff. We are having town halls through technology. We are having meetings through technology. We are having training through Teams. So I see an adoption that way. Outside the four walls, I see technology in driving sales, because remember, at the end of it, we want to keep employees healthy and safe. If there's no business to run, then there's no platform for keeping those employees safe. So I see technology utilization out of the four walls to drive business and volume and stuff. Are we providing employees with tools that are necessary for them to work from home? So one major thing we did at CCBA is to say, because the decision to work from home came in a day, and a market was flooded with requests for laptops and stuff, we asked people, you must not have a company laptop to work from home. Bring in your company, we'll configure it to CCBA network and setup. So that way you'll be able to access exactly what you access on the desk if you don't have on your personal laptop, if you don't have, if the company is not providing for you laptops, because we're having 100 plus, 200 plus people working from home. That could mean 50, 70% of them having laptops and the others not having. So that tool we provided. We also bring new thinking in terms of how do you get your internet, for example. We provide you with airtime every month. You're not gonna, business is down for sure. You're not gonna use all that airtime calling people. Do a bundle and just either as and when you want to. So that's the support that we're giving people.
John, at this point, I would want to hand over to my colleague, Madam Grace, to proceed from there.
Thank you, Moses. So in the interest of time, we have received quite a number of questions. We promised that we'll be able to respond to them, but I still see some hands up. Maybe just take one question from the floor live, then from there we wind up. Let's take one. Hi, we have Cosmas.
Yes, thank you. Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yeah, thank you very much, Grace. I can see we have qualified HR personnel here, and my question will be going towards that direction, where we are having so many employees, especially in the security sector. We have more than 700,000 employees. My question would be, how are we dealing with the new threats of employees, especially who are not doing their work in the right way? We have the model of work from home, but security sector, all the employees will have to go to work. But there are new threats of employees where they are cheating that maybe they are gone to work and they have gotten sick. Some of them even claiming that they have been quarantined. So they want to be paid for the 14 days when they are already in their own homes. Of course, you know what that means. It means that you will not go to Baghdadi to check whether he's really quarantined because yourself you're going to get sick. So you will have to pay that person when he's at home. You bring somebody else to where he was working so that you can also pay that one. And then eventually you might also end up paying the quarantine center. Those are three expenses. How are our members supposed to deal with such trends? In normal circumstances, we are supposed to give warnings, 3 warnings. Is it possible 3 warnings in 14 days? Thank you.
Thank you very much. So I will pass that on to John.
Thanks, Cosmas. Thanks, Cosmas, for that question. So I think at the beginning, I said we focused on doing what only the bottler can do. And today, the greatest threat is the threat to health. So that's what we're focusing on. Is there going to be an emergence of crafty people? There's going to be an emergence of crafty people. We believe as CCBA that there's already a mechanism that's not necessarily disciplinary driven to deal with such people. And I just want to drive us back to our values. So 2 of our values that I quote here is we've got ownership, and we say we act like owners all the time. So an owner who gets self-quarantined and cheats that they are away, there's already a mechanism to deal with it. And the other value that I want to call out is accountability. We say accountability is clear and personal. So if your accountability, what you need to deliver is clear and personal, go ahead and get quarantined. You still have a media review to have, a quarterly review to have. So we're focusing on the health and safety, and we're letting values come into place for things that we cannot legislate in this COVID time, because we don't have a special staff rules and regulation. Now, if you choose to go the disciplinary way, Cosmas, and this way I agree with you fully, is the rules and regulations are they're not suspended. You still have ways of dealing with people who abscond duty, who steal, and whether they are stealing because there's COVID or not, there's already those structures. But I've seen that we're going more towards living our values, bringing our values to life.
So, one more? Yes, Waske, I'd like to add something there.
Yeah, just to add on the response from John. It is true that the biggest risk we face at the moment is not terrorism, it's biological risk. And if you enter any of the premises around, what you will see at the gate, the temperature. You see the temperature comes, not the rungus anymore. That's the main focus for the security teams. And what we've done at Zuzu is to take care of this outsourced service provider security as our own employees. We've mentioned the safeguards that we have for our employees are the same safeguards you will get for the security team and all the others who are within our premises, ensuring that they have the PPEs, ensuring that they undergo temperature checks, including that they are issued with thermometers for personal checks. And what this will do, if employers support security firms this way, it will go a long way in preventing some of the cases that the question is addressing.
Thank you very much. So at this point, I'll give 1 minute each to our panelists just to say their final remarks, to give their final remarks, 1 minute, then we hand over to the Executive Director for close of the session. Starting with Waseke.
I think what I would like to say is that the new normal means many things to different people and different organizations. The timing and the definition will vary from organization to organization. For now, we need to plan and do business within the COVID environment for as long as it takes. Change our policies, change the way we do business, knowing that COVID will be with us for a long time to come. And then secondly, as Nick mentioned, the value of leadership during these COVID times. as leaders, as HR people, we need to be there to provide hope to our employees and move with them through this period. The issue of trust will be a major conversation beyond the COVID. How organizations are treating their employees during these difficult times will be a point of discussion when COVID is finally behind us. So, thank you.
John?
Sorry. So I think my two comments would be where we are now is really not a crisis. It's a turning point. And it's for us in HR to guide the business and the business leaders or the practices to see what the new front is and guide them into it, whether it's in terms of culture, whether it's in terms of skill. So it's a very sweet place to be as HR professionals. And the last one is, just assurance that we stay committed as CCBA to deliver your ice cold Coke at arm's length, always even with COVID.
Thank you very much. Nicholas?
Yes. Bob Marley said, you never know how strong you are until being strong is the only choice you have. I believe we'll make it through this crisis. It's no longer a crisis. It's a way of the next normal that we are now deliberating on. As HR leaders, we have to show by example, and we have to lead in the front. This is not the time to be in the back end and do anything that is not supporting business. So let's listen to our consumers. Let's understand the expectations. Whichever industry you are, there is opportunity left, right, and center. Let's capitalize on the opportunities and go for gold. We will get out of this.
Asante sana. So we will now hand over to our executive director. We confirm that the many questions that have been received will create time and provide responses to you directly. So over to you, Madam Jacqueline.
Thank you very much, Grace. Since our time is gone, I'll be very brief, but really it's been a very stimulating and informative conversation with our eminent and knowledgeable panelists. And they've very well summarized some of the key themes that have come out of this conversation. All of them talked about the need to prioritize employee health and safety, including mental and psychosocial issues, which we see as emanating from this opportunity and challenge brought about by COVID-19, which John has seen really in a positive light. It presents opportunities, and we are riding a wave of change. The importance of people and people management has been highlighted. The need for us to lead from the heart as opposed to focusing on rules, regulations, and bureaucracy, making things simple, focusing on people, investing in people, reskilling them, encouraging them, leading from the front. It will take a new leader to ride this tide and go into what we're seeing as a future post-COVID, because that future will definitely come. As Nicholas says, in times of adversity, you require strength, and the strong survive. And we have, from the beginning, never doubted that Kenya will come out of this stronger. But from a point of business, there's call for innovation and changing the way that we work, because the nature of work itself has changed, the place of work has changed, the idea of a workplace has changed, the tools of trade or of work have changed. They're more digital now, and that will continue because we can't go back to the old thinking of being manual. In fact, today there was an article that says that the older generation, the older people, I don't know where the cutoff is, should either start looking for new jobs or reskill themselves, because tools, technology, telecommuting it's already here with us, and it will stay. Diversity and inclusivity, even in this time of change, is still very important. Changing mindsets, still very important. Agility in understanding the customer or the client or the member, depending on where your business is, and getting into their skin. I think that would say to understand their and respond to their needs. Now, how do you get into the skin of your client? That is your challenge as a manager, as a business leader, because everything at the end of the day boils down to leadership. We had a very strong focus on changes, inevitable changes that are happening already that will have to be carried into the future in business models. This new normal in business models will need new skills. It will require nimble mentality, resilience, speed of response, and also the ability to take calculated risks. You have to. And I hope that some of your ideas will work, some will not. The worst thing you can do is to stay scared and do nothing and wait for COVID-19 to pass. Because even when it passes or when it settles, because it's here, the virus will be with us for a long time. We don't know until a cure or a vaccine is found. So we live with COVID-19. You have to take calculated risks, find new ways of working, shed off the nice to-dos. I think that's what I had the panel saying. There are lots of things we were doing in the past which were just nice things to do. Those we now have to shed off and focus on what must you really do if you're in a bottling a business, if you're fast-moving consumer goods, if you're selling cars or you're selling clothes or you're running a kiosk. What is the one thing you must do to retain your customers, to retain your market? Very informative, and I just want to thank you all very much for taking your time to be with us, Fred, Nicholas, and John. We appreciate that very much. You come with a lot of experience, so you're sharing things that you're actually doing, and I think that was very useful. I also want to thank you all participants for being with us, and we look forward to your participation next week, same time. I don't know if you'll be in the same place, but we will be in the same place, ready to converse with you on a topic that we will let you know in a day or so. Thank you very much. Have a lovely week.